right, so we're here and we've got our first person that is willing to have a conversation. So the question or the prompt is, now is the best time to buy a home. Prove me wrong. And then the back here, which, believe it or not, we were able to find an actual appraiser through all of this, right? So the back of this thing says, what does it say, JC?
Overpay for rate.
Overpay for rate or overpay for the home. Now, the reason why I say that is I believe that if interest rates were to go down tomorrow, we would have another situation like we had in 2020 through 2022, that prices just went through the roof. We had bidding wars, all of those things.
Right.
If you could tell us your name and what you do for a living, and then let's talk about this.
My name is Eric. I'm a residential real estate appraiser here in Bexar County, San Antonio, and the surrounding areas. And it's an interesting premise you put out there. I mean, you're correct. If interest rates were to drop, well, one, you might have a short little refinance boom because of everyone that's just bought in the past year.
Yeah.
And then also you're going to have people throwing their houses on the market because they know there's going to be a bunch of sellers out there wanting to, and so prices are going to go through the roof once again. Like you were saying, 2020 through 2022, you know, I mean, that was the busiest time I've been doing this for 26 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could not keep up with the amount of stuff. It was out of control.
Well, believe it or not, appraisers actually made more than lenders during this little boom. That's a joke, but truly they were making a killing, but out of time. I mean, it was like one after another, hence driving the prices, kind of like supply and demand with homes, same concept. So you've been an appraiser for 26 years. Hats off to you. That's for real. More than likely, you've appraised many of the homes that I financed.
Good chance.
Who knows,
I've
right?
appraised a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So what do you think is happening with our market right now? You're Bexar County, so it's local. What do you think's happening with our market right now in regards to values? Because I've got my beliefs. I want to see what your thoughts are.
Well, certainly, I feel like property values have stabilized. You might even see through 2020, 2022. Obviously, you had way over list price. People paying $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over list price. You'd put it on the market in a weekend. You'd have 60 offers.
Yeah.
Now we have obviously a big shortage in supply, you know, so that's keeping, I think, prices.
What do you think that shortage is due to?
Well, I think a lot of people are like, well, even though I could make some money off my home, where am I going to move? You know,
and that's because they currently have probably a sub 3% interest rate.
Right. They either have that or they've been in their home long enough. They might have, tons of equity in it, but still homes are still priced higher than what they might be able to get, for their home and everything. I mean, there's people that want to buy a house. There's just no supply, and also right now, the new home industry, it's a great time to buy a new home if you're actually going to buy a new home because the incentives are just out of control with the new home buyers. They're just trying to get, or sellers, builders, they're trying to move this stuff, And so
you mentioned two things that I want to kind of hone in on. The first thing is prices of homes have stabilized, but are still higher than what we're used to in the past 2 years. So they've stabilized at a higher price point,
right,
which leads me to believe that there is no inclination of a potential crash, at least in our local area.
I would concur with that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. San Antonio has always been pretty insulated from the volatility of California, Florida,
Absolutely.
New York, stuff like that. We don't get too high. We don't get too low. We kind of just stay up. We do this gradual, increases. It doesn't get crazy. I mean, 2020, 2022 were the crazy times, and so I just think, we don't get too crazy. So, I mean, and there's lots of people still moving here.
I agree.
So there is a lot of demand still for housing.
Okay, so the second thing that you mentioned had to do with new home construction and incentives and things of that nature. And it's my understanding that the incentives come in way or in lieu of receiving a price reduction in the home. Would you agree? I mean, this is kind of a two-part question.
It could be. I mean, there are some builders that they may have some inventory, so they're going to drop the price,
right?
Because they want to get rid of it. It's some existing homes that are already built. But a lot of times, even just in existing homes, you throw in an incentive for closing costs, things like that, well, then the price of the home is not going to go down.
Right.
It might actually even go up because they're trying to add that into the price.
Value, correct.
So that's certainly something. I have seen some lenders even, offering to buy down interest rates. You see that
2-1 buy down, 3-1 buy down, gimmick.
Yeah, lots of that kind of stuff. I mean, I have definitely seen that in the past year. There's been tons of closing costs, seller concession offerings,
Right.
whereas in 2020, 2022, nobody was
Not
offering
at all,
concessions.
correct.
They didn't need to because you were
No.
paying over.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely
So last question,
Okay.
and then we'll wrap it up. But in regards to new construction, is it tough to appraise a new construction home, being that the new construction homes are the only comparables that you're able to compare to, right?
Yeah. So when we do a new construction appraisal, the lender wants three comps. They want one that's by the same builder.
Yep.
They want one by a competing builder, and they want a resale.
Very good.
So it can be tough sometimes because some builders don't put their stuff in MLS, so you might have to go to them, or it might just be a brand new subdivision.
Sure.
We're like, we don't have any sales.
We don't have
Good
any
luck.
yet. Yeah. We're trying to set the market.
Yeah, exactly. It was very difficult a couple of years ago. Because people were just paying whatever. Now it's not so much hard because, like I said, a lot of builders are offering so much incentives. They're discounting stuff. They're throwing in, upgrades for free. So it's not jacking the price up so much.
Sure.
So not nearly as hard as it was a couple of years ago. And that's actually across the board for every house.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I really appreciate you. And what are the odds that we happen to meet an actual appraiser, totally unaware? But if you were to, I guess, go out on a limb here, would you think now is a pretty good time to buy still?
You actually brought up some pretty good ideas for that. I would have originally probably, before we talked to you, would have been like, no, this is not a good time unless you have cash and you don't need a
Right.
loan. But I mean, like you said, you want to overpay for the house, or do you want to maybe get your interest rate at what it is now, and maybe in a couple of years you even refinance it down if you need to, and you didn't overpay for a house.
There you go.
So that actually got you now.
Very good.
You're right.
Very
I did
good.
not prove you wrong. You were
Very
right.
Good. All right. Well, Eric, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Thank you. There's one for you. So we're out here at Small Business Owners. What is it? A market? A little craft show. We'll walk you around a little later, but we've got a sign here that hopefully will induce a little conversation. And similar to the street interviews that you see, we're going to see if people can convince me otherwise that now is the best time to buy a home.
I'm scared.
But what are you scared of?
Commitment.
Are you married?
Yeah.
So you've already taken the first step.
Touche.
Let's go.
Oh, nice. I'll take another.
Let's go. Whose beer is this? I don't want to mess it up. That's yours? Okay, good deal. Okay, so I have a podcast, Key Factors Podcast. I also own a mortgage company, I Think Mortgage. And the prompt here is now is the best time to buy a home. Prove me wrong, okay? And I know from your badge that you do solar, right? So I would imagine that you're more so on my side, but I'd like to know, is now the best time to buy a home?
And I think arguments can be made either way.
Let's play the devil's advocate.
All right. Well, I think about my house. I bought my house 3 years ago, right before interest rates kind of started to spike and go crazy. I don't think I could buy that house now.
Good point. And in addition, would you even be open to selling your house in fear of losing the current rate that you have?
I think the argument there is if I sell my house, given the current rate I have, even with the profit I would make and the value raise, I'm still, where am I going to go?
Correct.
Because now I'm going from a 2.75 interest rate to what, 6.5, 7?
Higher.
Yeah.
7.5. Absolutely. Yeah. So that being the case, being a current homeowner, I totally see your side and your logic on that. If you put yourself in the seat of a renter right now, what would you think the argument would be?
Well, I think the argument there is obviously renting is always worse than owning, because the longer you wait to own, the more expensive it's going to be.
That's a damn good point. It's
the same argument I make with solar, right?
Very good.
The longer you rent it, the more it's going to cost you in the long run.
Because in the end, you're basically throwing away your money, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So my thought to this is you're either, as the sign says in the back, and you can't see that up front, you're either going to pay a higher rate right now, or let's say I'm waiting for rates to come down. So if rates come down, what does that mean for our values?
Well, prices are going to go up.
And the previous person we had on here was an appraiser. He knew that, but you not being an appraiser, how do you know that?
I've been in the lending industry for a long time, and obviously in solar, it's the same thing. You know, prices are always going to go up. The value of houses goes up, and up.
Right.
You know, it's not going to go back down anytime soon.
What would you attribute prices going up to?
That's that lovely little thing called inflation.
Inflation. How about supply and demand?
Absolutely, that too.
So in all aspects of this conversation, would you agree that now is the best time to buy for somebody that is renting?
For somebody that's renting, 100%.
Someone that is currently a homeowner, I actually see your side of this. I would not recommend unless you were moving due to job, unless you were due to location, unless it was due to need. Yeah, an absolute need. And a lot of folks are doing it because they need to pay off debt. They can't qualify to cash out, but they can qualify to sell and buy. So in turn, they're basically selling the home, taking the cash, and buying laterally.
Yep.
In hopes that rates come down and they're able to refinance that to lower that payment. But the one thing that you can't really change, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, is the price you get in on the home.
Correct. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you're in, you're in. So down the road, if rates do go down, it's pretty simple to call you guys and refinance, right?
Very good. Yeah. Okay. Well, first off, let us know what your name is, what company you represent, so that we can get this out on the YouTube and all that jazz.
Absolutely, guys. Hey, thank you for letting me on. My name's Houston O'Connor. I'm the Director of Sales for Solar Edge Pros, one of San Antonio's top solar companies.
Thank you, Houston. Really appreciate it. Yep.